Hello Earthlings, Neutron Sound still here for the fourth video in this double album review week fortnight thing. Yesterday we examined Meshuggah's new album, now we're examining Phish's new album, Big Boat. Like Meshuggah, they need very little introduction, and like Meshuggah, they've really switched up their writing style on this album. This is the first album where guitarist leader Trey Anastasio writes more lyrics than Tom Marshall, who was basically his writing partner for most of the band's existence. And also the fact that Page McConnell writes 3 songs himself. But anyway, let's get to the music. The album is ushered in by the opening fanfare Friends, signaling the arrival of the big boat and possibly some spiritual elevation, and it's drummer John Fishman's first proper lead vocal since Lengthwise, which was ages ago. I mean, he did get a few lead bits on Wombat, but this is really his studio debut as a lead vocalist, because Lengthwise was just an interlude between songs. But this is his first time singing a proper song that he wrote, and it hits you right away. From the very first note, you can almost see the big boat making its grand entrance. And then track 2, Breath and Burning, was kind of the lead single from this album, although I mean, Phish aren't known for their studio albums, so I guess lead single doesn't really mean much to them. But it's basically the lead single, and it's a happy reggae song with some acoustic guitars, some organs, some horns. When Trey says "Rage with Page against the dying of the light," of course that introduces Page's organ solo. I mean, the Page side is the Rage side. Speaking of Page, Home is the first of 3 songs he contributes to this album. It's got a really funky beat from Phish, and it's got a sort of circular chord progression, like going around the circle of fifths or something, you know, with the organ just holding chords, and it's definitely one of my favorites on this album so far. I'm reviewing as I listen. The chords actually remind me a bit of Sylvia by Focus, another song with some weird chords on the organ, but, you know, not that weird. The tension suddenly builds about 4 minutes in, and then you get this nice a cappella breakdown to completely contrast with it, and then they just jam out until the end. Track 4, Blaze On, sounds exactly like my shirt. Every second of this song, all 4 minutes and 20 seconds of it, is pure marijuana. I mean, the title, Blaze On, and it's obviously about weed, you know, and it's got some real pothead or deadhead mentality lyrics, and I'd probably enjoy it a lot more if I was stoned. I mean, what else is there to say? Oh, and it's a calypso as well. Tide Turns is a sort of R&B gospel type song. It's one of Trey's better songs on this album, and it's got some horns on it like you did with Breath and Burning. It's got some nice organ on it, dun dun dun, classic gospel riff, and it's just a great song. There's some nice backing vocals on it as well. Things People Do was obviously recorded on Page's phone in one take. I mean, how else would you explain the low quality of the recording and the fact that the clicking of the keys on the piano is louder than the actual notes themselves. Waking Up Dead is Mike Gordon's song on this album, co-written with his other guitarist and writing partner Scott Moravsky, the other man behind Yarmouth Road and 555 and the entire Overstep album. It's unusually proggy for a Mike song. He and Trey seem to be switching styles on this album, what with Trey writing the reggae and calypso and R&B stuff, and now Mike turns in this prog epic, or mini epic. It's not that long. But he does get in a lot of typical prog rock twists and turns. There's some nice wah guitar and clavinet at the beginning, which is contrasted with this melody in the acoustic guitar and harpsichord, and there are some romantic chords in. It's got a nice minor with a major tonic feel. There's some slide guitar in the middle, and it's another one of my favorites from this album. And then Running Out of Time, again another favorite, is a nice quiet country ballad with an acoustic guitar, and Phish is playing brushes. Page is playing electric piano, and there are some synths, and, you know, Mike is obviously playing electric. but it does have that acoustic vibe to it, and it's another good song. Track 9, No Men in No Man's Land, is Tom's final lyric of the album, and more importantly than that, it's damn funky. Funky, that's a Mike thing. What did I say? Trey and Mike are swapping styles on this album. It's got some nice hi-hat work from Phish, kind of reminiscent of Sand or First Tube from Farmhouse. It's got some jazzy horn lines that fly in and out. Even when they're jamming at the end, there's still horns. And I really like the title, and it's just a nice funky tune. Miss You is another country song, this time an electric one, with a really simple chord progression and cathartic lyrics from Trey about his sister, who was mentioned in Stealing Time from the Faulty Plan. But the lyrics here are a lot more direct, and that's probably because Trey is writing them. And, you know, he actually went through this heartbreak when she died. And he plays a great solo at the end that moves the song to its climax, and it's another solid song from him. And then on I Always Wanted It This Way, Page's last song, he makes the band go synth pop. Trey is hardly on this song at all, apart from the occasional dring, but it is almost completely dominated by Page's synths, some of them chordal, some of them percussive. Those drums sound like a drum machine as well. It's a really nice change of pace for the band. As a jam band, you wouldn't expect them to go synth pop. I mean, the Grateful Dead were around in the 80s and they didn't do any synth pop, I don't think. More is quite an uplifting song, both lyrically and musically. It's kind of in a similar vein to Backwards Down the Number Line from Joy. It is really joyous, like that song. It's got a nice piano solo at the end, and it would be a fitting closer if it were the actual closer. But that honor goes to Petrichor, a piece Trey originally wrote for guitar and orchestra, now arranged for band and orchestra, and he's added some lyrics at some points. But as on all of his orchestral pieces, he really blends his rock and classical influences, which can also be heard on stuff like Time Turns Elastic and You Enjoy Myself. There are bits of the orchestra that are kind of in the background for the first few minutes of this piece, but they really come in around 3 minutes. Then there's a short section with some vocals. Then you get a really slow 3/4 piano section, which gathers momentum as the guitar enters and the drums get heavier. And then there's another vocal section. They're all about rain coming down. There's a sort of stop-start section where Trey plays a quiet little trill in the gaps. And then you get a quieter version of the second vocal section. And it does swell a little with the vocals and the orchestra coming in. It doesn't get too loud, but it does get quite happy. And the ending is just really happy. You know, repeated until the end. So that is Big Boat. Definitely Phish's happiest album, not called Joy. I can't say whether or not I like this more than Fuego. I probably do. It's nice to see Trey writing more lyrics, especially since the worst lyric on this album was written by Tom. And I also like that Page is writing more songs, and more diverse songs, and that Mike is going prog as well, and that Phish is back writing and singing again, and that they've changed their compositional formula for the second time in a row. And it's just a great album. They've been making a string of great albums for kind of a long time. So that concludes another double album review week, fortnight thing. So until next time album review time rears its head, which I don't think is gonna be for quite a few weeks now. So I'll actually be posting some of my own music, something I haven't done in ages, and I'm really looking forward to that. So until next time, this is Neutron Sound signing off. Go forth and be awesome.